Cary Singleton, one of the reasons why I like you is because you speak your mind. I remember the first time I met you, we were at Lonnie Christopher's house. It was
Yeah.
Lakers playoff, something like that. And I was a little sick. So, I said, oh, I don't want to shake your hand, my brother. I got, the flu. And your response was this brother got the swine flu or something like that? I was like, my response to myself was, this brother don't know me from Adam. He talking about this brother got the swine flu. Have you always been like that, to speak your mind, say what's on your mind?
Yeah, I've always been like that, and I probably can attribute that to my grandmother, and my father, and my father's siblings, my uncles and aunts. My father came from a family of 10. I had 7 uncles and 2 aunts, and not one was meek or docile. Everybody spoke their mind about any and everything. So it's part of my DNA makeup.
How did you like being in a big family?
Well, my mother and father, it was just, it's actually 3 of us, but only
Okay.
grew up with 2 of us. My brother lives in Houston, but I did have a large extended family.
Right.
So I had a lot of cousins, I had a lot of uncles, obviously, and aunts, and it's a beautiful thing. Particularly during the holidays, you get together and we have dinner and everybody's playing and you see family man I've seen in a few months between those other holidays, and it was just nice and the sense of comfort knowing you had so
Exactly.
many people that were family.
Right,
So
yeah, because I never had a big family, but I always liked a house full of people,
yeah,
so it
yeah.
had to be great. Okay, now, one of the other reasons why I think maybe you speak your mind is you went to an all-boys school, and I never knew anybody till I came to California, and I met you, Lonnie Christopher, Richard, and Max, and all
Right,
those guys.
right.
I never really met anybody that went to an all-boys school. What kind of impact you think that had on you?
Well, when you go to an all boys school, there's a lot of camaraderie because it's just you guys, just the boys. There's no girls, there's no distractions from that regard, and you're forced to get along. You have to get along because you're seeing each other all day, every day, and there's no balance. There's no dichotomy. There's no girl and boy. It's just boys. So I wouldn't say that part had a lot to do with me just speaking my mind, but that did have a lot to do with the relationships that are forged while there and after high school.
Right, because you guys, I watch you guys. You guys are, to this day, tight as can be. And you think that has something to do with the fact that it was just you guys there and nobody else?
Absolutely. When you have girls or when you go into school as co-ed, girls will get it wrong. Girls can be a distraction, as well as guys be a distraction for girls. But when you just all the guys and you on campus, you don't have that girl say, come on, let's go, and you going. You know how you are when you're young, you girl crazy. When it's all guys, it's just you guys, and you guys do what you guys do, and you develop a lot of good relationships out of the result of that. And it's fortunate for us, for our little cluster, that we remain close to this day.
Great. So at what point during your high school time did you start thinking, hey, I want to go to college? And how did that process work for you?
Well, that's a good question. Initially, I wasn't thinking about college. I thought that I was going to go into the military, maybe the naval academy, not naval academy, but the Navy. I didn't take school seriously until my junior year in high school. But I had an uncle who was very influential in my life, and he sat me down one day and he told me, he said, you like all these nice clothes, and you like to do this and like to do that. He said, you're not going to be able to afford that with a high school diploma. And I don't know if it's unfortunate that was what it took for me to start
Right.
taking school seriously, but whatever works. And so I started taking school seriously. I started turning my grades around my junior year. By most accounts, it's really almost too late. But I was able to do that, and I started taking school seriously, and I just pushed forward from there.
And so what was your major in college?
Business with an emphasis in marketing.
And why did you choose business?
Well, I hate to say I like money, but I like the things that money can acquire. And I always wanted to make sure that I, didn't struggle financially. Not to say that I don't, but, my plan was not to struggle
Right.
financially. So I had a friend in elementary school by the name of Byron Bobbitt, and his father was an entrepreneur, really big in real estate, owned a lot of real estate here in Los Angeles. And Byron would come to school, in 1975, 76 with $200 in his pocket on a regular basis. And that's a lot of money, even by today's account, to have that kind of money in your pocket in 4th and 5th grade. And, I knew that his father was an entrepreneur and he worked for his father on weekends to earn money. And we always talked about that we were going to be businessmen and we were going to make a lot of money, and that's how I kind of got driven into that direction. And plus, my uncle again was an influence, and he was a business major in college as well.
Great, great, great. Now, after college, of course, you got to go into the real world and tell us about your time at GC Services.
GC Services, that was the first job that I went into coming out of college. Like most college students, you're struggling. You coming out now. It's like, what do I do now? And so we didn't have the internet back then, and we didn't have access to these search engines and job websites. So it was the good old fashioned way: open up the newspaper and look for a job, look for an ad. And I responded to an ad for a management trainee, and interviewed, was made an offer. And about a year after that, I went to Arizona with the company. And then about 8 months after that, I went to Washington, D.C. with the company and got into management. So that was my tenure at GC Services.
And just listening at you tell your story, I think that was a very important, pivotal thing for you to come right out of college and get into a management trainee, program.
Right.
Did you kind of see that too at the time?
Yeah, well, I've always been aggressive, and I'm very competitive, and I felt that I could handle it, I could do it. Always had a chip on my shoulder, so I was looking forward to the opportunity to advance with the company. It took for me some moving around to do so, but when you're young, that's the time when you can make those kinds of moves. So I did that and took advantage of it, and I'm here today.
Great. What about your time at Daniel Freeman?
Daniel Freeman was a time where my mother wanted me to come back to LA, put a lot of pressure on me to come back. She wanted to spend more time with her granddaughters, and I took the opportunity to interview with them when I came back for Christmas one year, and I was made the offer, and so we came back here to LA, and I was the patient accounts manager at Daniel Freeman, and that tenure was really brief. The director and you talk about my saying what's ever on my mind, and that kind of, I won't say so much saying what's on my mind that got me in trouble, but just standing up for what I believed in, got me in trouble. So,
right.
But yeah, that was Daniel Freeman. Yeah, Health Management Systems, headquartered in New York. I went to them after I left Daniel Freeman, and that company had contracts with Department of Health Services here in LA. So all the LA County hospitals, such as King Drew, which is now closed for inpatient services, but also Olive View Medical Center, LA County USC Medical Center. There's a healthcare facility in Downey as well, and we basically would take what we call an eligibility history file, which we retained all the information. We billed once and you had coverage, we kept that history. That was called our eligibility history file. We would match that against their self-pay file to find a hit and find coverage, and we would bill that insurance company, and we got a percentage of those proceeds. And we would bill for Medi-Cal and Medi-Cal, even though the county knew that those patients had that coverage, for whatever reason they were unable to collect. And then we would take those accounts after, I believe it was 90 days. We would take those accounts and then we would bill, and then if we got paid, we would get a percentage of those proceeds as well.
Good deal. Now, there's plenty of people out there who give a right arm to work for Price Waterhouse. So how did that come about for you?
After HMS, I was contacted by a recruiter and asked me if I'd be interested in an opportunity to work with, at the time, I think a big 6 accounting firm. And I said, yeah, I'd like to explore that. So I interviewed with the hiring manager, and they made me an offer. And at the time, they were trying to grow their healthcare business here in Los Angeles. I believe it was Ernst & Young that had a real stronghold in the LA area for big 6 firms in healthcare under the consulting arm. So they were trying to build that business and compete with Ernst & Young. So I accepted the position, and actually, ironically, I did most of my consulting outside of California or up in the Bay Area. I wasn't in Southern California. I was in San Francisco for some time. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico for some time. New York, Washington, D.C., worked on some projects out there as well.
Now, people who don't really travel a lot tend to envy people who do. Did you ever get tired of the travel? How did that work?
Absolutely. It gets old. It is exciting in the beginning. You stand in hotels, you're eating out every night on someone else's dime. You're seeing different cities, nightlife, whatever that may be. It is exciting, but again, it gets a little old, particularly if you have a family. That novelty of traveling and living a good life, if you will, particularly on someone else's dime,
Right.
it gets a little old.
And what about IPC?
Inpatient Consultants is the largest hospitalist company in the nation, and I was the director of the billing department there. And that company pretty much employs physicians who only work in an inpatient setting. So you have a lot of hospitals throughout the country who contract out physicians to just demand and do rounds, if you will, rounding of the patients in the hospital with hospitalists. So IPC is the largest in the country, and that was a good experience because it's the first time I actually worked on the physician side of the world. Most of my experience came from the hospital. Now I'm working for the provider.
Exactly.
So that was a pretty good transition and good experience as well. I actually started out at Kaiser as a contractor in their regional offices in Pasadena, working with the NCO department, which is the National Compliance Office, and I helped them build policies and procedures around the RAC, the Recovery Audit Contractor. That's the initiative where Medicare is trying to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. And RAC is a concept whereby they just randomly audit your claims that you submit for payment. And there's certain things around that that you have to comply with when they do those audits. So I worked with Kaiser on that project, and that project was winding down and coming to an end. And I took the opportunity because I had a Kaiser, even though I was a contractor and not a permanent employee, I had a Kaiser email domain. So I used that to look for jobs and also contact the hiring managers directly as opposed to going through the HR department, because that could be a very arduous task.
Oh, yeah.
And it just so happened that I reached out to one hiring manager. He contacted me, I think, the same day to set up an interview, and we interviewed like the next 2 days. That went well, and he called me in for a panel interview, and the rest is history.